we're all good. So, originally, I moved to
Testing.
Ohio about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We live in Columbus, Ohio. Should I look at you or the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Kathy Humbarger, Right to Life of Northeast Indiana.
Hello, how are you?
Yep, sure thing.
Thank you so much for being a part of our program this
Seth
evening.
Drayer,
for inviting me.
Sethdrayer.
Hopefully we can all
I'm Vice
converse,
President of Created
in
Equal.
a way that respects each other. I know you'll get the respect from
Yeah.
us that you deserve.
I should hope so.
Yeah, so what we believe is a public debate about abortion is critical because
Thank you.
it's not as if there has been a debate that
No,
has
we-
failed. Rather, we've had a
These
lack of
are
public
ours.
discussion about abortion back and forth. So tonight, both sides have brought forth a speaker and we're going to present our case. We'll hear why abortion is wrong from me and from Ms. Erin Fogg why abortion is supposedly a moral good. My argument is simple. It's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans. That's what abortion does, and that's why it's wrong. So I'm hoping tonight will be a friendly exchange back and forth, different ideas shared amicably in a
That's
winsome
probably
way.
where
We
you've
can
seen
have a
ours.
robust discussion of whether abortion is
I don't
truly
like those
right
jokes.
or wrong.
I don't like those fucking jokes.
Nobody likes I like my jokes.
Because they don't make you feel fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think the biggest confusion is
trust
people think
me,
there's still
I
debate
feel
happening about whether the
Yeah.
fetus is human. There's no debate. It's academically settled. We know that life begins at
not a big
fertilization.
fan.
The real debate today is whether or not we are all equal. Are very young humans in the womb equal to you and me who are born humans? That's the critical question. So tonight we will discuss the evidence of how we know that preborn are human, but really the debate will focus on who counts as one of us.
Sorta.
Are all humans equal or do only some of us count?
Well,
Yes, she is gonna kill it. It's all good. you're
Sure,
right
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
and this is better because you can like pause it and go do literally anything else.
Yeah, so I think that I will leave it to Ms. Fogg to present the case, of course, tonight, but I hear often things like, we need to just trust women to decide. This is not about trusting women. This is about whether or not abortion is a moral wrong. If something is a moral crime, we don't trust people to decide.
I don't know
We don't
either.
let men decide whether or not to beat their wives. We say, no, that's a crime, you should not do that. So if the preborn are
what?
human beings, we should not allow it
here,
up to
come
people
closer.
to decide whether or not to kill them.
what?
It's wrong to kill them
What just said-
intentionally.
what?
And again, that's what abortion does. So we'll see what the position is tonight, but I would expect something along those lines, or maybe we'll hear things such as people who are pro-life don't care for other people. But we're not here tonight to attack people. We're here tonight to discuss ideas and arguments. People may not like me, but that's not what
we
matters.
like to protect
What matters
children.
is what do you think about
That's the thing
abortion?
we do.
What do you think about the 2,300
Lives are
humans
valuable.
today who will be decapitated, dismembered?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. Please find a seat so we can get underway. I know we're about 5 minutes late, and that's my fault. So you can throw rotten apples at me if you like. We want to keep the evening rolling, though, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate those of you who are here for the Life Defenders Camp. I know that's the majority of people in this room. Stand up if this is your first year. Wonderful. And how many of you have been here over 3 years? All right. Great, great. And everybody else is in between. So we are here, of course, to equip you to make a gracious defense of life with your peer group, with your professors, with your adult friends, with your peers. That's what we're all about, a respectful and graceful defense for the unborn. So thank you for coming to learn more about that. Now, as life defenders, we all love babies, right? Yeah, okay. Everybody awake out there? So that means we really like birthdays, right? All right, we have at least one birthday girl here, Summer Spencer. Anyone else have a birthday today?
Yep, that's right.
Oh, great, good. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll get rolling here. I'd like to introduce Abigail Lorenzen. She's the Operation Director for Right to Life of Northeast Indiana. Without her, this weekend and many other events would never happen. So, Abigail?
Thank you. As Kathy says, there's no stars on our team, Kathy. And I don't believe, did Kathy mention her own name? This is Kathy Humberger. She's the Executive Director of Right to Life of Northeast Indiana. Welcome to the University of St. Francis. Welcome to Life Defenders Opening Assembly. This year, a public debate. The question, elective abortion is a moral wrong. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to our moderator for the evening, who is Dr. Deb Grimm, a local retired OBGYN, and I'll let you continue with the welcome and the introduction of our debate opponents this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening, both here in the physical audience and in the live stream for the debate, Elective Abortion is a Moral Wrong. I am Deb Grimm, and I am pleased to be serving as the moderator this evening. I am a retired OBGYN trained in Dallas, Texas, and my favorite retirement pastime is killing Japanese beetles that are destroying my garden. We'll begin with an introduction of each of our speakers. On the affirmative side is Seth Drayer, the Vice President and Vice President for Created Equal, a pro-life education and outreach organization based in Columbus, Ohio. Seth leads Created Equal's team to equip and inspire defenders of preborn babies. In addition to overseeing pro-life outreaches on college campuses across the country, Seth has become one of the nation's premier pro-life debaters. Seth has appeared on national television shows Hannity and Fox and Friends. Seth is originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts from Indiana University in French teaching. Seth taught English in France before returning to Indiana to work as youth minister for Trinity Evangelical Church in Fort Wayne. In 2010, he entered full-time pro-life ministry. Seth is married to Aubrey. They reside in Columbus, Ohio with their 3 children. Opposing the resolution this evening is Erin Fogg. Born and raised on a dairy farm in rural New Hampshire, Erin learned the true meaning of hard work, ethics, and the importance of community. After college, she enjoyed the hustle and bustle of cities like Philadelphia and New York City. Through her travels, she has cultivated a deep appreciation for cultures and the arts. Erin chose to move to Fort Wayne, Indiana, 11 years ago to raise her children. Here in Allen County, her 2 children have the best of Erin's own upbringing, the conveniences and luxuries of city living and a quick drive to a quiet countryside to enjoy fresh air and nature. Erin is hoping to dedicate the time and energy needed to help every child in Allen County experience an enriching, healthy childhood. She is doing this in part by running for councilwoman at large. As a disabled woman, Erin knows all too well the struggles so many of our neighbors experience as they daily try to navigate a hostile healthcare system while fighting social and physical barriers. As a single parent, she also knows how difficult it is to balance the budget when every penny counts. As an activist, she has and will continue to fight for the rights of all people to live and speak safely. As Allen County Councilwoman, Erin would combine the above qualities to ensure that all citizens are represented. The format for this evening is as follows. Each speaker will have 20 minutes for an opening statement, followed by 3 minutes of cross-examination by the opposing speaker. We will begin with Seth, as the burden of proof lies with him, being the affirmative to the topic, elective abortion is a moral wrong. There will be 10 minutes for each speaker to provide a rebuttal, Erin, then Seth. Then closing statements, again, Erin, then Seth. After the close, we will have time for questions and answer with the audience. If you have a question, you may, during this segment of the program, proceed down to one of the microphones, and I will indicate the appropriate time for you to ask questions. And at this time, we're going to ask that people who have questions for Erin will go to that microphone, and people who have questions for Seth will go to this microphone. Both speakers will have an opportunity to respond to every question and have 2 minutes for each response. You will have 30 seconds in which to pose your question, so please ask them succinctly. When your 30 seconds have passed, you will see the red stop time card, and you will be cut off. The speaker may ask the audience member for clarification if needed. 1 question per audience member will be to begin with. The purpose of any debate is to have a respectful dialogue about the question posed. It is, therefore, of the utmost importance that audience members show respect to the speakers, moderator, and each other. Individuals unable to remain respectful during this event will be asked to exit the auditorium and escorted out if necessary. Let's have a round of applause for our speakers this evening, Erin Fogg and Seth Drayer. I'd like to hand over now the microphone to Seth Drayer.
Good evening. My wife Aubrey and I are honored to be here tonight. We want to thank Kathy Humbarger and Right to Life of Northeast Indiana for inviting us. And I want to thank Erin, who we just met a few moments ago, for joining in tonight's dialogue. Now, you might think Erin and I are opposites. I oppose abortion. She presumably supports it. We heard a moment ago she was from the East Coast. I grew up 30 minutes south of here in a small town called Tucson. And as embarrassing as that is, more embarrassing is I didn't realize till I was in college that that's a very weird name. But if you look deeper, I think you'll find important common ground between us, which I hope to explore this evening. For example, while I was reading Erin's bio on her website, I found some important information, things that she believes. For example, this: everyone deserves the highest quality of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As I read this, I was struck that Erin and I, we both believe that you and me, all of us in this room, that we matter. Otherwise, she wouldn't think we deserve anything. So tonight, we are not debating whether humans matter. On that, we already agree. Here's what the debate will be about. Who is the everyone? The view I'm going to advance tonight is one of inclusivity, that every human being counts. It doesn't matter if your skin is black or pasty white like mine. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short like me. It doesn't matter if you're privileged enough to be born or too young. Now, I'll leave it to Erin tonight to define what she means by everyone. But as you listen, ask yourself, what does each side say about who counts as one of us? Who is inclusive and who is exclusive? Now, to all watching here tonight or online this evening, I think you and I too have critical common ground. Now, let me illustrate. In the dead heat of August 2018, Rhonda Jordan returned to her home in Bend, Oregon, to discover the unthinkable. She found her grandson, 7 years old Mason, lying under a sheet on his bed, dead. Gunshot wound to his forehead. He's seen here playing with his mom, Tashina. Nearby was Tashina, also on the floor, unconscious, and next to her, an empty bottle of pills. And there was also a note. It read, "I tried to shoot myself, but the gun stopped working, so I took 200 or more pills." Now, Rhonda realized, what I'm sure you have already as well, that's that Tashina killed her own son, Mason, before trying to take her own life as well. When I heard this story, I was grieved, and I thought, well, there's got to be more to this story. I had a second thought, too. No matter what else there is to this story, Tashina's act of killing Mason was unjustifiable. Now, I looked into it, and there was indeed more to this story. I discovered that Mason, 7 years old, was physically and mentally disabled. Tashina had become his sole caregiver the day his dad walked out on them. And on top of his round-the-clock care, Tashina had her own mental illnesses to take care of. As I read this, I realized this was a mother pushed to her breaking point by forces outside and inside. And my compassion for Tashina grew. I hope yours does too. In this, we should be united. But we must also agree to a second point. No matter how challenging Mason's disabilities were, no matter how exhausted or unwell Tashina was, it was wrong to kill Mason because he was an innocent human being. And that is why I'm here tonight to defend our resolution that elective abortion is a moral wrong, because the victims of abortion are innocent humans just like Mason. So here's my case tonight. To intentionally kill innocent human beings is a moral wrong. Second, elective abortion does that. It intentionally kills innocent human beings, and therefore elective abortion is a moral wrong. Now, if you and I can agree tonight that it was wrong for Tashina to kill Mason, we already agreed to that first line. We agree it's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans like him. To say that Tashina should not have killed Mason is not to deny her choices as a woman. All it means is that some choices are wrong, including the choice to purposefully kill a child. It also does not mean we lack compassion. We can and should feel compassion for Tashina and women like her. And similarly, but we also should have our compassion should not push us to condone the killing of Mason. In the same way, we must have compassion for pregnant mothers, but our compassion should no more drive us to permit abortion than it would drive us to permit the killing of young Mason, if the preborn are human. And so since we already agree with my first line that it's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans, what I need to do is defend my second premise, that that's what abortion does. So to do that, I have two questions for us tonight. One, is the preborn human? And second, does abortion kill her? So the first question, is the preborn human? Katha Paula is an abortion supporter who has done a lot of writing, and in her book, Pro, Reclaiming Abortion Rights, she gives the answer to this question. She writes this: obviously, a fertilized egg is a human. It isn't feline or canine, and it is alive, and it is a being in the sense that it exists. Paula may support abortion, but she also accepts basic science. When sperm and egg come together in fertilization, a new human being is created. The sperm was part of the father, ovum part of the mother, but now a new being has come into existence. That being immediately starts growing. Dead things don't grow. She must be alive. But what kind of being is she? Well, Paula gives us the answer there, right? She's not feline or canine. She's the same kind of being as her parents. So if a woman is pregnant, is she a human? I think we can agree she is. What about the dad? Is he human? Now, some seem unsure tonight, maybe, but if they're both human, what they create must also be human as well. So if you read embryology textbooks, they affirm this in what they write. Here's just one, but I can share more this evening. Doctors Moore, Prasad, and Torsha in the Developing Human, Clinically Oriented Embryology, they write a zygote, made at fertilization, is the beginning of a new human being. Human development begins at fertilization. So she's human. But what about the second question? Does abortion kill her? Well, before Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood answered this question affirmatively. In a 1963 pamphlet they had, Plan Your Children for Health and Happiness, Planned Parenthood said an abortion requires an operation. It kills the life of a baby after it has begun. Why would they say that? Well, in surgical abortions, the baby is decapitated, dismembered, disemboweled through suction or forceps. Consider the testimony of Dr. Lisa Harris, who performs abortions. In Reproductive Health Matters Journal, Lisa, Dr. Harris, writes of performing such an abortion procedure while herself pregnant. She writes, I picked up my forceps and began to remove the fetus in parts. I grasped an extremity and began to pull it down. I could see a foot hanging from the teeth of my forceps. With a quick tug, I separated the leg. And precisely at that moment, I felt a kick in my own uterus. There was a leg and foot in my forceps and a thump, thump in my abdomen. Instantly, tears were streaming from my eyes. So Dr. Harris concludes, there is violence in abortion. This is not merely for surgical abortions. In pill abortions, drugs detach the baby, starve and suffocate her, intentionally killing her, violently sending her to her death. Contractions begin and she's expelled violently from the mother dead, often in a toilet. But let's not take Dr. Harris's word for it. Let's look at the violence ourselves. I'm about to show you visual evidence that abortion kills. If you'd like not to see it, you can merely avert your gaze. It will last only 60 seconds. But first, I want to pause here and give a side note. When we see injustice, we recognize deep within us something is not right with the world. We all saw it recently in the video of the brutal killing of George Floyd on that street corner. We saw that. We knew something is wrong. And we will see it together in a moment on this screen in the broken bodies and limbs. Something is wrong. Now, tonight, I am not building my case on religion against abortion, but as our country's attention is focused on evil, I want to make a really critical side note, and that is that when we see these evils and want to make sense of it, the gospel of Jesus Christ makes sense of this and provides a solution. We are a broken people. That's why racism is rampant in our land. That's why mothers are turned against their preborn babies. So what do? You can't retweet enough good vibes to end evil because it's inside us. Instead, we must trust in someone who's able to rescue us. Jesus Christ, truly man, truly God, is that someone. Now, justice demands that God not merely overlook the wrongs we do, including abortion, but for those who believe in Jesus, they have true forgiveness. So what you're about to see, this might have been your story tonight, but it does not have to end there. That is the lived experience of over 2,300 humans every day in America. Relevant for this cultural moment is that every day, 661 of them are black. I ardently believe that Black lives matter, and that's not just Black lives like you and me who are born, but also those 661 Black lives. Now, in the beginning, I said this was not going to be about whether we matter. On that, we seem to agree. Now we come to the real dispute between us, and that is who is the we? Who counts as one of us? Here's the most controversial thing I will say this evening. I believe in human equality. While I was watching a Facebook Live video Erin posted on July 2nd, I was again struck by common ground we share. Erin and I oppose injustice. In the video, Erin laments what tonight no one here can ignore, and that is the barbaric stain of human slavery. In the video, Erin declares our ancestors owned people. Now, I share the fury against human slavery. I hope you do too. We have to ask, why? How do we know it's a moral wrong to own people? Isn't it because all humans are created equal? If it's wrong to own a man with white skin, it must also be wrong to own a man with black skin. The color of your skin does not suddenly make you the kind of being someone can own, but here's the great tragedy. Our concern is so often limited to those who are like us. We leave out the other, the one different in some way. I bet you the white slave owner himself opposed human slavery when it came to people who shared his skin color. He didn't want someone stealing his children, raping and selling his wife. But when it came to someone with darker skin than him, he allowed all manner of injustice. What if tonight someone walked in this room with a razor-tooth wrench and began to perform an abortion procedure on the person sitting beside you? I hope everyone here, pro-life, pro-choice, would instantly object. But if you object to someone doing an abortion procedure on someone born like you, why do you allow it on someone who's different? Now, please don't misunderstand me tonight. I'm not saying a fetus is like you in every way. I admit that her immaturity does make her different. But here's my contention. Our differences, her being different, is not a death sentence. Now, what are the differences between born and preborn? It's pretty easy. We should know these differences. And there are only 4 of them. They're easy to remember. Consider this photo of my daughter and son, taken when my wife Aubrey was pregnant with our son. You can see there are differences between them. Our daughter's born, our son preborn. 4 differences, easy to remember. They follow an acronym, the acronym SLED. First, size. Our daughter was much larger. Our son at this stage was about the size of a sweet potato. Second, level of development. Our son was far from developing speech at that stage. Our daughter was already talking circles around my wife and me, and those who know her know that's true. Thirdly, environment, born and preborn. She was outside the womb, he was inside the womb, difference of location. And lastly, degree of dependency. Our son, being preborn, depended on my wife in an intimate way, whereas our daughter was no longer attached, still dependent, but to a lesser degree. These were genuine differences. But did these differences justify killing our son and not our daughter? No. And here's how I know. There was a third person involved in this photo, me. Now, I'm behind the camera, but imagine I'm in the photo with them. How would I differ from my born daughter? Those same 4 ways. I'm a pretty short guy, but I'm taller than my daughter. Does her smaller size make her somehow the kind of being we can kill? No, we know size is irrelevant to human value and rights. Second, level development. Yes, she could talk, but she couldn't speak French like me. I was more developed. Did that make me more of a person? No, we know level development is irrelevant. If it's irrelevant for my daughter and me, it must have been for our son as well. And third, environment. After this photo, I went back to work, she went home. Different environments. Did her different location mean that she had fewer human rights than me? No, where you are does not determine who you are. The same was true for our preborn son. And degree of dependency, I was much more independent than she was. Would anyone here tonight say her dependency on my wife and me made her less of a person? I don't think so. And if dependency was irrelevant between her and me, it must have been irrelevant for our son, because here's what matters. Our daughter is human, I'm human, our son, human. Our size, level, development, so on, those may describe us. They don't define us. Indeed, what these differences often tell us is how old you are. A fetus is so much smaller than us because she's so much younger. To say we may kill her for that is ageism. So we have a choice tonight, equality or inequality. Will we recognize all humans are equal, or will we, the powerful, the privileged one, the ones old enough to be born, say those who are too young just don't make the cut? I offer an inclusive society in which every human being counts. We know that color does not justify cruelty, sex does not justify second-class status, age does not justify abortion. How you look and act, that's going to change as you get older. Your membership in the human family, that will not. Now let's briefly review the ground that we've covered so far tonight. To defend our resolution that elective abortion is a moral wrong, this was my argument. First, to intentionally kill innocent humans is a moral wrong. The tragic story of Mason Jordan demonstrates on that you and I already agree. Second, elective abortion does that. How do we know? We asked, is the preborn human? The science demonstrates she is. We also asked, does abortion kill her? You saw for yourself, it does. And so we conclude elective abortion is a moral wrong. Now, Erin could defeat this case tonight by defeating my evidence that the preborn is a human being. If that falls apart, this whole thing falls apart. But here's what won't defeat the resolution. Attacking those who are pro-life instead of the case that I presented. What matters is not the color, gender, sex, age of those speaking tonight. What matters is the message, not the messenger. So as you listen, ask yourself, who has better evidence tonight? Now also, you might tonight dismiss my case by rejecting human equality. I'm really eager tonight to see where both Erin and I stand on this, to see whether she agrees with me that all humans are naturally, inherently equal. As you're listening, ask, which side values every human? Who is inclusive? Who is exclusive? But as I close, I'd like to offer one final thought. I have 2 daughters. I've often been told my opposition to abortion makes my daughters somehow unequal to men, that men allegedly can make a baby and walk away, and my daughters should be able to do so as well. But I believe that all humans are naturally equal. This means the black man need not somehow become white to be a full person. He is already enough as he is. In the same way, my daughters are naturally equal to boys as they are. To suggest that they need a medical procedure, abortion, to somehow become equal to men is to suggest that they are naturally inferior. I find that utterly offensive. Women are equal by their very nature. And further, when men act irresponsibly, I reject the notion that women should lower their bar to meet them. Remember, I began with the tragic story of Mason Jordan. His dad did walk out. What if you had been there when Tashina was holding the gun in one hand and the bottle of pills in the other? Would you have said, go ahead, shoot, take his life, opt out of this world your own, show the man you are just like him? Or would you have said, I can't imagine how hard this is, but there is a better way? Now, I think it's clear which path we should take. Regardless of who you are and what your story is, it is wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings. That's what abortion is, and that is why it is wrong.
Thank you, Seth. Now we're going to do the cross-examination that will go for 3 minutes. Erin, this is essentially Erin's time. She may interrupt Seth in his explanation if she has another question. So, Erin, whenever you're ready, begin.
Thank you. Quick note, I am no longer running for county council after being shot at with gas, rubber bullets, wrongfully arrested, spent over 24 hours in the Allen County Jail with a young woman, 22, 6 months pregnant, who was laying on the floor on a mat on the ground for missing a court date for a suspended license. So I won't become part of a government that wants me and my friends in jail and who treats pregnant women and the unborn, who I agree are human beings, like they do not matter. I loved the picture of your kids. You said there were 3 people in that picture, child, the unborn, and yourself.
Yeah.
You missed your wife. Because that baby, that unborn baby, is inside a human woman. Every little girl can grow up to hold another entire human being in her womb. I've done it 3 times. The first time I was 16. I wasn't ready to be a parent. I resisted my parents' pressure to get an abortion and did an open adoption. I have 2 little girls of my own. And I would carry another baby inside of me again. But we need to remember, right, that there weren't just 3 people in that photograph.
Sure.
So I'd like to ask for the remainder of this time if I could put my fist inside your mouth for just like, what, 2 minutes, right?
I don't understand what that would prove.
Well, if a woman becomes pregnant and does not want to be pregnant, she has to have a whole entire person inside her body against her will, correct? If the unborn is a person.
Are you saying that she has been assaulted and that's why she has the child inside of her?
Regardless.
Well, but if a woman has a child inside of her after consensual sex, when you choose your actions, then you have to deal with the consequences in a healthy way, right? If a man says, if a man and wife, when a woman have sex, a baby's made, he can't say, hey, I consented to sex, not to the pregnancy. He should not walk away. Tashina's, her boyfriend or husband should not have walked away. I think you and I probably agree on that. We think both men and women should not walk away. They have a responsibility now to this child they've made.
Would you like a whole entire person inside your body?
Now, I don't understand. Are you asserting that I cannot do that?
When you consent to sex, do you consent to have sex the next day too? Or do you only consent to that sexual act in that moment, and you can revoke consent at any time? At any time, if someone is touching your body, you can revoke consent, and I hope you do. If someone makes you feel uncomfortable, if someone is penetrating your body against your will, you can revoke that consent.
I would agree with that, but I think that when you consent to sex, if you get an STD, you can't just wish away the STD, right?
Do
It's
you
there.
consent to AIDS every time you have sex with your wife? Because you don't know. She could have been assaulted and hidden it from you.
You accept the chance you could have AIDS, yes, you do accept that chance.
You consent to AIDS.
When you consent to sex with someone who has AIDS, you're accepting the chance you might get AIDS. The same way having sex, you are opening yourself to the possibility a child is made. Here's the question. When that child is inside your body, is it moral to decapitate and dismember that child?
If I forcibly put my fist in your mouth right now, those officers right there would be warranted in using lethal force to stop me. So when any human is inside another human against their will,
we are now hitting the time frame,
you get to
Erin.
exercise the rights of the Constitution to
Erin.
protect yourself.
Thank you. And now it's your turn, Erin, for your 20 minutes, or 20 minutes, yes.
I'm really excited to be here today and get to speak to so many young people. I've spent the last, since May 29th of this year, meeting so many brilliant and strong young people all throughout Fort Wayne. I met them on May 29th when we all came out to say that Black Lives Matter. And we were all out there, about 800 to 1,000 of us, defending life, defending that Black lives matter. And the police came out and gassed us out of nowhere for hours. And they did it the next day and added rubber bullets. And then they did it the next day. Many of you maybe have seen the live that we shot while we were being arrested, my boyfriend and I. With no warrant, with no probable cause, just mild rumors. They brought out air support, canines, multiple officers with live rounds. I was arrested and taken to jail, where not only did I meet this girl, about 22, 6 months pregnant, in there for just its suspension of a license. She missed a court date. So she should be incarcerated and taken away from her own little child who was already born. In there with another young woman. It was her second OUI. And yeah, OUIs kill. But the county was talking about sending her up the river for 3 years so she wouldn't see her own child again until he was 10. I've met all of these young people and we keep getting arrested, these kids keep ending up in jail because they want to defend life. So I'm super excited to meet even more young people who understand how valuable life is. And one thing we can all do today, if we agree that humans are equal, we agree that the preborn are human, is we can decide that the preborn do not have more rights than a born baby, than a child, than a teenager, than an adult woman. I do not have the right to put my body inside any of you. I don't. You are allowed, and those officers right there will do it for you, to use lethal force to stop that from happening. So when we say elective abortion is a moral wrong, the counterpoint to that is forced pregnancy and childbirth are a moral right. That any person should have to go through the experience of their body bonding to a human being, to a baby, that hurts every day it's in there, that it strips the marrow from your bones. Your teeth can fall out because the baby will take the nutrients whether you have them or not. If you're in jail and you're pregnant, you will give birth in shackles. Your baby will be taken from you. You will be in that cell for as long as the state says you need to be there, and if you are Black, Indigenous, or brown, you'll be there a long time. But at least your baby was born, right? To be raised by not you, not their dad. How many of you can sit here and say that it is morally acceptable for any person to be forced to push an entire human being out of their uterus, through their vagina, that can kill you? And for Black women in this country, the maternal mortality rates are shockingly high. I do have disabilities. I have a severe connective tissue disability that would mean a pregnancy, especially at 40, could be very, very dangerous, if not lethal. But even still, at my advanced age with that physical disability, my maternal outcome as a white woman will be vastly superior to the most healthy, most wealthy Black woman in this country. So if you want to stop abortion, you seem very, very concerned about Black women having abortions, but not particularly concerned about the massive poverty gap. Why is it that Black families have so little money when white families have so much? Why is it our maternal health care is so much superior? Why are these things? You want to stop abortion, you stop racism first. There is no inherent evil in any of you. I don't believe that for a second. I don't think Jesus would say right now that there's just inherent evil in every one of you. That means we cannot overcome racism. If we don't overcome racism, if we don't overcome poverty, and we don't overcome the need to use lethal force against each other, against every other country, you can't escape the need for abortion. When every family can say, yes, I can support the children I have, I can pay the hospital bill, I can keep my job, or I take the time off of my job to stay home with that little baby. When we can do that, when every mother knows that her health care will be superior, that she will not die of very common complications simply because of her skin color, and when we realize that no age gives any person the right to be inside the body of another against their will, then maybe we can talk about why abortion is so wrong. But unless you are spending weekends learning how to fight racism, I don't know why you're talking about abortion. Unless you are paying, $35 a head for your brown bag lunch and t-shirt to learn how to eliminate poverty entirely, why are we having these conversations? If we solve abortion, we still have racism, we still have poverty, and we still have war. I know that you are all here to learn how to debate liberals and communists and Satanists. But I think I've said my piece. And I think the value of continuing this is zero. So I will leave you with this. if you truly believe in human equality, you will think about the people who actually get pregnant, who actually give birth. And be very, very mindful that if you are forcing them to do either of those things against their will, because consenting to sex is not consenting to AIDS. It is not consenting to pregnancy. It is consenting to sex in that moment only. So good night, and God bless you all.
I have the time for cross-examination. Could you stay for a few questions? Well, as Erin leaves the building and as the moderators get together, let me just offer a few comments and thoughts about what we just heard. It's very easy to hear an argument and deflect. Now, if you're familiar at all with a red herring, it's a fish that you could use a smelly fish you could use to drag across a trail to get a bloodhound off the scent. And there's a fallacy that bears its name today. It's called the red herring fallacy. Because when we hear an argument, if you don't have a good response to it, you use this fallacy, a gap in logic, to distract from it. And that's a bit of what we just heard tonight so far, trying to get us off the track, saying stop racism first, missing entirely the inherent racism in many abortions that I was hoping we could engage this evening. Sadly, unfortunately, someone here in Fort Wayne who has become an anti-racist champion is not willing to stay and speak about racism. When you have 661 black babies killed every day, when you have an industry, Planned Parenthood, that has its abortion facilities in minority communities and was built on the eugenics grounding of wanting to exterminate minorities, there's a lot of meat there we could discuss. Sadly, we're not going to. She chose to leave. But not only did she choose to leave, as she also gave us some other logical fallacies. This idea of stopping racism first is a massive begging the question fallacies. Begging the question means you assume what you've not proven. Now, it seems tonight that Erin's statement assumes the preborn is not a human being. Otherwise, she wouldn't say stop racism first. She would say you kill. You stop abortion. Don't kill the baby. You stop all injustice. You don't just say let's fight racism over here, not look at racism here behind you. That is very, very myopic, very, very short-sighted. If the baby is a human being, it is not only racist, it is utterly immoral to kill them. This is not merely about racism, that is part of it. It's also about basic human rights. If we had 2,300 toddlers killed today in America, do you think anyone would say, let's stop poverty first? Let's worry about our borders first? Let's worry about this, worry about that? No, we would say, stop the killing. If someone here suggested it is moral to decapitate, dismember little people that are born like you and me, we'd all object. And I think another point is made about what Erin was saying about this fist notion. Acknowledge this. If someone puts their fist in your mouth, they have not been invited in. Now, if you say, I'm going to open my mouth really wide, try to stick it in there really good, then maybe you should let them stick their fist in your mouth. But that means you invited them in, right? The baby has not forced her way in like someone might force their fist into your mouth. The baby has been invited in. When you consent to sex, you are choosing the action. You don't get to choose the consequences. You've already chosen the action. You must deal with the consequences. Like I said, if you have sex and get an STD like gonorrhea or chlamydia, you must deal with that in a healthy way. Ignoring it is not healthy. If you have sex and get pregnant, you must deal with that in a healthy way. Now, I'm very disappointed tonight because I thought we'd have more to rebut. Understand this. I know that a lot of you are new to the Life Defenders camp, but let me tell you something that I have seen because many years ago, I was in your very shoes. I was a student coming to this camp for the first time. I drove Scott Klusendorf, the president of Life Training Institute, around in my car. I met Mike Spencer later, married his daughter. But so I saw this happening and thought, you know what? That looks really cool. What just happened? You can be right here. We think it's so scary to defend life. It is not scary because I see this, my team in black shirts, we see this everywhere we go across the country. We give a case. We go to campuses with our signs and say, if someone can give us any evidence that preborn is not a human, we'll go home. No one ever does. What did Erin do? She conceded our whole case. She said, yes, they're humans. She agreed to our first premise. She agreed that they're human beings. She didn't answer the question, does abortion kill them? But she seemed to be opposed to it. So as I close, we're going to let the moderators come up. Just a couple more thoughts, and then I'll turn over to Kathy or Mike, whoever's going to take this on. But just remember this. What you saw tonight, though I am disappointed, I have been preparing. I was excited for a robust exchange of ideas. What you saw tonight is what I see every single day. People support abortion and have no good reason for it. When you give a good reason for abortion, they walk out the door. That is not to say every abortion advocate has not thought this through. Some of them have. And this weekend, you're going to be prepared to take them on. But many, many times they just say, distraction, I won't engage, and walk away. And why is that? Why do you think that is? Couple things. Our case is really, really good. Who can oppose this? It's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans. Elective abortion does that. Therefore, it is wrong. Who can oppose that? I think they've forgotten something. We have been fighting tooth and nail, not me. Others have been fighting for decades, since 1973 and before. I've met people fighting before Roe v. Wade made abortion legal throughout the country. We have been fighting, preparing for years. We are ready for this fight. We are not willing to sit and let the status quo continue. They have the status quo. Now, I have no idea if anyone's still watching online, but I want to give you just a couple closing thoughts, and then I will, as I promised, turn this over. To those tonight persuaded, like me, that elective abortion is a moral wrong, I have a thought for you. Coming to a debate, not quite 2 hours, right? Coming to debate, seemingly for every time we've been together this evening, having your heart opened to the dehumanized is a great first step. But it's not enough to save preborn people. This debate is no mere intellectual exercise. Real human lives hang in the balance. They need your intentional acts of love and sacrifice. If our nation dehumanized you and declared you the kind of human fit for execution, it would be cold comfort to you if people who said they cared about you listened to an hour-long discussion about it. You would want them to stand up, demand justice, put their lives on the line. That is what our preborn neighbors need from you. To those, anyone still listening, undecided or unsure, I have a thought for you. There is a lot of talk today, and I'm glad there is, about systemic injustice. I am glad that we are having this conversation. I oppose injustice in all of its manifestations. Hope you do too. But are you open-minded enough to consider the systemic nature of elective abortion? It's systemic killing. Roe v. Wade made abortion legal throughout the entire nation, allowing the building of powerful infrastructure. There are over 800 abortion facilities forming a veritable network through our nation where preborn babies are killed every single day, starved and suffocated by drugs, decapitated, dismembered, and disemboweled by surgery, suction, or forceps. 2,362 every day. And as I said, 661 of them are black. Some facilities like Planned Parenthood operate on our tax dollars. Lobbyists are ready at a moment's notice to drop everything and fight against any bill that might save just a few of these babies from death. Systematic killing. It's also systematic dehumanization. Counselors and doctors encourage parents with difficult prenatal diagnoses to abort. Films like Obvious Child, starring Jenny Slate and other famous people, try to convince viewers that this should be normal to kill people. Rhetoric is used every day on college greens and on street corners to dehumanize the preborn, like clumps of cells and parasites. Or it's systematic disregard from both those pro-choice and, dare I say, pro-life. Everyone here tonight saw the broken bodies on the screen, yet many will go on their lives unchanged. Erin tonight agreed that's a human. She recognizes it. She cares about born humans who are dying, born humans who are in jail. She does not care about preborn humans. What does that mean? She is open-minded to anyone who's like her born. Her heart is closed to those preborn. Will you tonight open your heart to those who are preborn, younger than you? Systematic killing, dehumanization, disregard, and most importantly, it is systematic legal killing. Abortion is not the only injustice, nor is the only systemic concern facing us, but here's what cannot be denied. No cause, no crime, nothing else is claiming as many lives as every day the blessing of the law gives us to kill little preborn people. Every year in our nation, we kill through abortion roughly the population of Indianapolis. No recourse, no justice for these hidden victims. You may turn off your computer tonight. You may go home tonight pro-choice, but if you do so, do not pretend that you are a friend to human equality. You've attached your name to the most systemic dehumanization effort in our nation today. But I'm not a pessimist. I don't think Kathy is either. I think we can move forward. I think we can both shake off the dusty prejudices of our past and be open-minded enough to look at the reality of today. I think we can move together the long march for civil rights for all. So we're back to the question I began with. Who's the all? Are you ready to decide? You have to. Who counts? You must. We cannot achieve justice for all if we systematically set aside an entire swath of people for execution. There's no equality if it's reserved only for those privileged enough to be born like us. We must not demand freedom at the price of bodies of those weaker than us. It is time to unite. Unite around one very simple truth. Every single human counts. Regardless of your sex, your skin color, your religion, your age, abortion is the intentional killing of innocent human beings, and that is wrong because every one of us, black, white, rich, poor, born, preborn, we are all truly created equal. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Seth?
That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to switch it to question and answer now.
Okay.
Kathy, did you want to make an announcement? Go ahead.
If you do, just come up to the microphone and we'll let Seth answer the questions. Yes, ma'am.
Simple question.
Yes.
If she stuck her hand in your mouth, does that give you all permission then to dismember it?
To dismember her hand?
Yeah.
No, so I would say if someone forces their hand in my mouth, I should use the least force possible, right? I shouldn't chop their hand, I should remove it from my mouth. But again, we must remember, I did not invite her hand into my mouth. If you have sex, the baby does not force her way in, right? She's been invited in through the act of sex. But you're right, no, use the least force possible. I agree with that. And here's what I certainly should not do. If she forces her hand in my mouth, I have no right to kill her, right? So even if someone has been violated through the act of rape where they did not choose this, that is a horrible crime, and I am again against injustice. So the man who did that crime, the individual who did that crime should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I fully agree with that and think we should prosecute him. I think we have to remember something else. Even if a woman's been violated, she is the primary victim of rape, no question there. But there's a secondary victim, preborn baby. Right? We don't punish victims. That baby is by definition entering a life, a difficult world. The father may be in jail. There's going to be a lot of difficulties ahead. A secondary victim. We don't punish the primary victim, neither should we punish the secondary victim. We punish the victimizer. It would be horribly incorrect of us to give capital punishment to a preborn baby made in rape, put the dad in jail for a few years. That would be horribly unjustified. We should not kill the victim. So if someone's hand is in my mouth, I certainly have no right to kill them. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Now, a more serious question.
Okay.
How do we change the conversation about abortion to helping women with the actual resources they need?
Oh, see, I don't think it's either or, right? It's not mutually exclusive, and that's why this is so great. We have again, about 800 abortion facilities throughout the country. We have over 2,700 pregnancy resource centers, which are giving not only counseling, but tangible help to women. So we have the pro-life movement has many arms, educational like this tonight, resource centers helping women. My team, when we're in front of abortion facilities, we not only counsel, we bring people where they can get ongoing care. So it's not either or. The conversation, I would say, on our side changed a long time ago. But we want to be very, very clear in this. Even if every pro-lifer were a great hypocrite and cared nothing for helping women, which I don't, but if they were, it would not change the objective case against abortion. The objective case against abortion hinges on the objective facts of the matter, the moral argument. Whether or not you may be the greatest hypocrite, it doesn't change whether abortion is right or wrong. But I do think we've changed the conversation, and I'm excited about that.
Okay, good, because from what I've seen, most women have no clue that there's pro-life centers out there, that they provide resources for them. Like, most of them have been taught, well, I'm in this situation, I need to get an abortion because that's my only option.
If I give one thought, I think it might be that there is a lot of money and tax dollars behind some parts of this debate, right? Planned Parenthood receives a lot of tax funding. They have a great PR campaign, but they're not there for you after the abortion if you regret it. They're not going to be there to help you parent. We must recognize that they have certain benefits maybe that we don't have funding-wise and promotional purposes. But 2,700, there are a lot out there. Help us. Tell people about us. Tell them to go to get their information online, type in Pregnancy Resource Center. You can find one near you. Help us spread the word. We are there ready to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, Seth.
Hi, Megan.
So I was originally going to ask this to Erin, but maybe you can fill in.
I'll do my best.
So one of the things that was brought up was kind of between the difference in the fist analogy. My question is, do parents have an obligation to their children?
Oh, yes.
And I'm assuming that your position would be yes, and maybe if you could just expand on how that applies to abortion.
We're learning a lot of new arguments together. I did a debate at Megan's school years ago. We had a new argument about the kidney, so ask Megan about that later. Tonight, this argument of the fist, you're right, it raises a very interesting question. She's talking about children. She would say that no child has a right to use the mother's body. This does raise that critical question, do children have rights against their parents? And I think so. I mean, this just happened this year. Tragic stories I read all the time. Lori Vallow was an Idaho woman whose children were missing. She was told to produce them before the authorities, and she did not. They found her later in Hawaii. She had skipped town, skipped state to flee away. Her kids were still missing. We charged her, the state charged her, with non-support of dependent children because we recognize parents are obligated to give certain care to their children. Not iPhones and great cars. No, that's not required. Basic care, nourishment, and protection. Parents are required to give those things. You're not required to give those things to your neighbor's children. Where I live, there's a beautiful family across the street. If their children are starving, I'm not held legally responsible for the law. But if my kids are not fed, like Lori Vallow, I will be held responsible. I'm required to give basic care to my children. We, I think, recognize that's a good thing. Again, with Lori Vallow or others like her, if people deny basic care to their children, they're doing something wrong. Children do have rights against their parents. Parents do have obligations to their children. I think we recognize that. And so the question is, what is the preborn baby asking for? Something heroic above and beyond the call of duty? Well, pregnancy may not be easy. I do think women who are pregnant are doing a fantastic thing I cannot do, and I look at it in awe. But I know this, the preborn baby is not asking for anything unlike the older children. She's just asking for it in the only way she can as a 6-week embryo. You can't take her out and bottle feed her. She can only be fed the way she is attached to an umbilical cord. Now, if you don't like that, take it up with God or Darwin. I did not design the way children grow. But wherever you are in your stage of development, parents are required to give you basic care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. Next question.
Good evening.
I think you won the debate. I think we've won many battles over the years, but it's been a long fight. And I guess, is it possible to win the war? Is it possible to make abortion illegal again?
Well, I think this is what's so exciting. So I'm not a political scientist, right? So, and I have no crystal ball. There are a lot of political theories. But here's what I'm very, very excited about. Being at Life Defenders, while Right to Life in Northeast Indiana I can't speak for, they do have a legislative agenda. They recognize that we also have a very important second agenda, and that is to make abortion unthinkable even while it is legal. That's Create Equals mission as well. You'll meet Life Training Institute members here tonight as well. Their goal as well. We are winning every day. Our team sees well over 1,000 every year. I don't know our latest numbers. Ian Spencer, our director of programs, can tell you, but we see people every day changing their mind, and that's exciting. So we're winning the battle every day, individual with individual. The bigger battle, that's a bigger question. I don't have a great answer for you, but I do know this. If we are individually changing hearts and minds, saving babies every day, that's victory number one. We can also have a great discussion about the best legislative mission. There's a breakout session tomorrow discussing that very topic. But if we are making efforts, working toward that goal, that's great, exciting. Now buckle up, it might be a long road. We need people like all of you here at Life Defenders who are willing to be part of that long battle. Maybe it'll end soon, maybe it won't, but it will not end if you don't commit your life to this. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Come on forward.
Hello. What's a question to ask a pro-choice person when they attempt to justify abortion? Sort of way to diffuse them or make them think.
So I think you really want to get to these two questions we asked, right? What is the preborn? Does abortion kill her? We really want to focus like a laser on this, because if the preborn is not a human being, as Greg Kokel has said, of Stand to Reason, if they're not humans, no justification for abortion is necessary. It's like, removing a tooth or cutting your hair, right? It's your body, do what you will with it. But if she is a human, Kokel continues, no justification for abortion is enough, is adequate. So we really have to focus on that question, but I have found, and this is what you saw tonight, right, where Erin agreed they're human, I don't think she believes they're equal to us. If she did, she would not say it's okay to kill them, focus on racism first. So we have to get to that second question, right? Who counts? Are we all equal? So those are the two questions we focus on. We ask people, what do you think about abortion? Does abortion kill the human? Is she human? That's good, that's the first part. But second, are we all equal? We must press people on that. And this is what I love. They like to say, you're religious or you're a man, right? But okay, well, here's what's important. I believe in equality. Do you? They say they do. They often don't challenge us on that point. So if they agree they're human, science makes it so clear. This is the big misconception. There's no academic debate today. There was a study in 2018 by Stephen Andrew Jacobs, the University of Chicago Department of Comparative Human Development, He surveyed over 5,000 biologists worldwide, over 1,000 institutions. Guess how many said life begins at fertilization? 95%. Every segmented group of biologists, including those very Democrat, very pro-choice, they all said life begins at fertilization because the science is so clear. But they still support abortion because they don't believe we're all equal. So those are the questions I'd recommend. What do you think the preborn is? Is she human or not? Does abortion kill her? And what do you think? Are we all equal or not?
Thank you.
Seth, if I could just jump in here just a second, and just want to tell you that I do remember back when you were driving Scott Klusendorf around in your car, and I thought...
Almost broke down and hurt him, so...
Yeah, I thought, this kid might grow up one day, and little did I know the wonderful job you're going to do. So once again, thank you so much. I do want to say one thing about Erin, and that is she showed up. Even if she didn't stay for very long, but that reminded me of the last debate that then Allen County Right to Life hosted, and that was on the campus of what was then IPFW. And Scott Klusendorf took the pro-life side. He could have taken the pro-abortion side too, but his opponent was a woman by the name, I think it was Kat Boers. Am I right, Scott? That was, yeah. And after the debate, Scott told me that he felt so sorry for her that he almost argued both positions. But Scott is with us tonight, and he's, as you know, a nationally recognized apologist for life. And I thought it would be an interesting opportunity to have Scott and Seth both on stage to continue fielding your questions. But we would then have the last person to have debated a pro-abortion advocate in Fort Wayne and the most recent. So Scott, would you come join Seth on stage? Thanks, Scott.
Hello, brother.
Oh, you know, this gentleman's been waiting to ask a question. Do you want to ask a quick question before we get going?
If that'd be all right. So one of the first points of her argument was essentially stating the claim that a unborn child doesn't have more rights than a fully grown adult, but then the rest of her argument essentially proceeded to argue that they have so much less rights than a fully grown human by bringing up so many issues about the environment, the situation of the person, and other issues that aren't even related. Do you have any advice or maybe simple arguments to just cut through distractions or red herrings, as you said?
Well, I think you seized on something really important there, right? So she's beginning with an argument that sounds, it plays to our intuitions, right? To say the baby has no more rights than the woman, that sounds pretty good. But then it slides into this second idea, which is they have fewer rights. Because she would certainly not endorse killing a born woman like any born woman in this room tonight, right? So you seize on something very, very important there. But I would say we just have to be laser focused, right? So it's good to call out the red herrings, say, you know, that's actually a logical fallacy, but you keep coming back to this, right? So with any argument, sticking a fist in your hand or whatever, say, but yeah, but I couldn't kill you, and we're killing here, so what do you think about abortion? It might sound like you're just like this crazy person who can't get off that question, but we have to seize on it, stay laser focused, because that is the question they must answer. They are defending the killing of innocent preborn people. If we just start going and arguing all those other issues, we can win those arguments, but we're going to waste a lot of energy and time and not win over the people we must win over. So stay laser focused and say, you know what, we can talk about that tomorrow, about the current racism situation in Fort Wayne. That's a good discussion, and that's a great one to have. But tonight is focused on what do you think about abortion? Just stay laser focused on it. Don't get off of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
So, Seth, what I thought we'd do is,
Can I ask a question?
if you don't mind, what's that?
I said, I've been waiting.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, young man, I'm probably the most imperfect lay Franciscan you'll meet.
Can I come closer to here?
Yeah, I'm probably the most imperfect lay Franciscan you'll ever meet. And I think part of the problem from both sides of the fence, to be quite honest. You know, my God had his arms stretched out, and looking at the whole crowd, he didn't discriminate. He said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. All life is sacred. I've served in my own imperfect way for decades. I've learned to respect myself and others. There's a problem of definition. Where is the defending of life? Shown here. From the start. All together. Defenders without mask to protect an old man like me. We need to look at ourselves. Find ourselves. Meditate on what is a servant. I'm a servant of Christ, not because of his enemies, but because of his children who are sick and needing help. If you cannot respect each other in this room, don't get lost in another cause until you learn how to do that.
Okay, Seth, I was going to talk to you about your event tonight. You did extraordinarily well, and I want to help the audience get a little insight into your mind, how you went about this. Okay. Seth did the three things you have to do in a debate. Number one, present a case. Did you notice he had a syllogism? For some of you, you're going, what on earth is that? It is simply premise, premise, conclusion. It's wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings. Abortion does that, therefore it's wrong. He presented a case. Now, it's possible his case is wrong, and that was Erin's job to show that his case was wrong. And she didn't do that. The other thing that Seth did that was extraordinary, he narrated the exchange, as much of it as there was. Because the key to a successful debate is reminding the audience repeatedly what you said, how their arguments didn't refute it, and why your case stands in spite of what they said. And he did that in his closing remarks after Erin had left. If you ever want to know how to do a debate, you saw a textbook tonight on how to set this up. So extraordinary job, young man. And yes, give it up. So now you got to come back to the mic.
I was enjoying that moment.
How did you prep for this? Tell the audience what you put into this, how they should think about prepping for an event with an opponent, even one that you think might not be your intellectual match. How did you prep for this?
Well, so this might have been a textbook debate in some ways, but Scott wrote the book, literally. He gave me a book years ago about how to organize a talk, start to finish, some notes from his. And so I have poured over that. Scott is someone, and many others in this room who have been in this for years have gone before us, and so I did not invent any wheel or try to reinvent it. I learned from those who've been before me. I have spent many hours listening to Scott, others who defend, others who oppose abortion. We keep trying to make it pro-choice tonight. Not sure why that is, sorry. So I've listened to many of their debates to get an idea of what he's talking about, the kind of backward, what is a good part of a debate, understanding the important elements. So first I wanted to know what is important, what is included, narrating the debate, what's a good opening. I've listened to many debates on various topics, not just abortion. So learning, kind of immersing myself in it. I love foreign language. You learn foreign language by immersion. The same with debate. I immersed myself in debate. But beyond that, I prepared by preparing an opening statement that I thought was not only presenting the argument, but fairly culturally relevant, because we want to be relevant to the culture not changing our argument, but making it attractive and finding the things that our culture cares about right now and connecting the dots for them. Beyond that, what I tried to do is anticipate what Erin was going to say. When Scott did a debate years ago with Dr. Potts in California, I believe, afterwards Scott shared with me how he had prepared, and he had anticipated what Dr. Potts would say. He had rebuttal notes. You can look at my binder if you'd like to later. I have rebuttals, everything I think Erin might have said, and bullet points of how I might respond. And for the past while, and on the drive here even, my wife was drilling me through them to make sure I have some specific dates and times and things in mind. But I would say, in addition to all of that, while this space, being here in a formal setting, is a different kind of preparation in the conversations you will have with your classmates, the conversations you have in classrooms with your friends and peers, that's also part of the step as well. Just beginning, having dialogue. The many years I spent dialogue on college campuses and in downtown squares, in simple everyday conversations, that helps me learn to navigate. You don't go from that seat to here immediately. It takes time, preparation, and more informal dialogue to get ready. You can do it, but it does take time and effort. I'm sure there are more steps. There's a couple that were involved.
Oh, fantastic. By the way, who do you think had the structural advantage before the debate began? Seth or Erin? Erin did. She had nothing to lose tonight. Nothing to lose. Seth has everything to lose. If even one person who's pro-life changes his or her mind, he's lost ground tonight. She hasn't, because you're all a pro-life audience for the most part. The best debates I do are when I walk into Dr. Potts' class with 640 students at UC Berkeley. None of them agree with me. I have nothing to lose in that theater. Nothing to lose. There's no way I'm storming out. She missed an opportunity to pick some of you off, and she walked out on it. I was just dumbfounded by that. She had everything to gain and nothing to lose here tonight. It was actually Seth who was on the hot seat. You know why? Because if he had not done well tonight, you guys would have been all over him. eaten him alive, right? You would have been disappointed that your dude dropped the ball, right? So that's why I didn't debate tonight and left it to you. No.
Thank you.
Especially since Kathy said I'm now pro-choice, so,
right.
you know. But she had everything to gain. So why do I say this to you? Some of you might think in a classroom in your high school or college that if you speak up for life, you can only lose. No, you can only win. Because somebody might start listening and might start thinking. We are called as Christians to be willing to go into the fire and make our case. And we have the hope of Scripture that the Lord will be with us, will bring to mind things we are to say, and that's your job. And she missed an opportunity tonight to come here and try to make her case to you. Don't ever make that mistake yourself, okay? If you get an opportunity to make a defense for what you believe, even if that whole audience is against you, you are the one that actually has the advantage because you actually have the opportunity to change some people's minds. Don't run away from it the way she ran away from it tonight. By the way, there is a reason why she ran away tonight. And I'm going to use that phrase. She ran away. Your opening statement was so devastating and so clear that there was nowhere for her to go. Nowhere. Once she conceded, as your opening forced her to do, that the unborn were human, the next step was she would be forced to concede she doesn't believe in human equality. There's no way she's going to let that happen in front of this audience. So of course she bolted. That doesn't surprise me one bit. But you framed this so perfectly, and I want all of you to take note of this. When you make a presentation, your ability to clearly articulate what it is you're arguing is half the battle right there. There's an old saying in law school, if you have the facts, pound the facts. If you don't have the facts, pound the table and do it loudly. We heard some table pounding tonight, but it wasn't from Seth because he had the facts and he had the arguments. Great job. I want to ask you one other question,
yes, sir.
and then I'll leave it to Kathy to tell us what's next. What was your biggest concern approaching this debate? And how did you overcome that concern?
So my debates have been a bit different than Scott's. The last debate I had at Purdue University was very shocking. When I started my opening statement and the opponent stood up to get a can of pop and pop it open and start drinking, I thought, this will be weird. And it was. He proceeded to walk around the room, yelling things at me, lecturing me, and it was a steamroller presentation. He just shouted. You can find it on youtube.com/createequalfilms. It's on there. This will be too, if you want to revisit tonight. But so I thought, preparing, how do I know how to properly prepare? Because I anticipated something like this might happen. And I thought, well, do I really have to do the hard work of drilling all the rebuttal possibilities, making a new opening statement? What if she doesn't come? What if it doesn't last the whole way through? Can I just kind of, ride on my laurels, skate on through? I was very tempted to do that. But I knew I couldn't because we must be prepared. Even the little we had, I had to be ready to respond to that. And also, what if she had stayed, had a more robust exchange of ideas? We can never underestimate our opponent, as they do every time to us. Another debate I had at Purdue with Dr. Ralph Webb, I think he sat down with this stack of books and assumed I was going to do the same. We kind of flipped through the books, and I was disappointed in some of his presentation, too. I think we are underestimated a lot. We're that backwoods, silly, confusing people who have no idea what we're doing. That's just not true. We have great arguments, but we also must not do the same and underestimate them. So that was my temptation. I overcame it by remembering that I didn't want to be embarrassed tonight. And I certainly did not want to do a disservice to the babies. This is not an intellectual exercise. They're dying.
By the way, did you notice that Seth took away a lot of her arguments in his opening statement? He mentioned them and refuted them. This is a tactic called set up and destroy. It's where you quickly summarize what you think your opponent is going to argue, and you deal with it before they get a chance to even deal with it, and you take those issues away from them. And that's exactly what you did. Another brilliant, extraordinary stroke on your part in that regard. I'll end this by saying every one of you in this room, you may not be someone who does a debate, though I hope you'd be willing to try it. but every one of you can master the moral logic of the pro-life position. And that's what you're going to be taught this weekend. So this is not a mere get some head knowledge. You're being trained to go out there into a world that disagrees with us, that thinks largely like Erin does, and you're being equipped as foot soldiers to go make a difference and defend life, and that's what we're going to do this weekend is equip you. So, Seth, great job. Let's give it up for him one more time. And
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, come and tell us what's next.
Hey, Seth, before you leave the stage, Dr. Scare is here tonight. Many of you know Dr. Scare. He is on the board for Right to Life of Northeast Indiana, and he would like to pose one question to you, and then we're going to let you take a break. Okay, he gets the last question because he's a big shot here tonight. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Scare.
Yeah, I want to say you guys are my heroes. It was wonderful. I was only hoping that I could take the pro-choice side and maybe get half of the money that was given to Herrin, since she didn't finish the job. But I wonder, and you touched on it, but you made a great case for human life and human equality. What would be your case if the syllogism were questioned and they say, well, yeah, we believe human life or persons are equal, but you can't really say a zygote is, you could say that's human life, but it's not a person because it doesn't have cognitive ability, it can't have social interaction, all the things that we say make up our human lives. What would you say that if somebody's questioned whether that actually is a person and not yet, it's an indifferentiated clump of cells, but not really one of us yet?
Yeah, that's a really important question and something that we'll be talking about all weekend, this notion of personhood theory. Very, very important question to raise. So they might concede that as a human, but say not all humans are persons. So take note of this, first of all. If they say you have all these humans, only some humans are persons, by definition they're rejecting human equality. They might believe in personhood equality, all persons are equal, but not human equality. So first, like Scott was saying, narrate the conversation. So you are, as Scott often says, you're tossing onto the ash heap of history human equality. You recognize that, right? We can move forward to that discussion, but let's take note of what you are doing. You're saying not all humans are equal. So now we move on to ask, so on what basis do you say that that very young, very immature human is not a person? And they might say what you were saying, something like it lacks some value-giving property. A lot of people say that. They say that that human is not self-aware, she's not rational yet, she can't communicate. During Scott's debate at IPFW, I was a student at IPFW then, sitting in the seats, I remember his opponent said, you can't take that embryo out and send it to school, so it can't be a person. Now I was shocked by that suggestion, but those are the kinds of things we hear, right? There are differences. So what you say is, okay, that's true. Why does that justify stripping personhood from someone? How do you know that self-awareness is a value-giving property? Peter Singer, bioethicist from Princeton University, wants us all to accept it's just a fact that dropped out of the heavens one day. We all know self-awareness makes you a person. Not so fast. You have to justify that. It's not enough to assume or assert that makes you a valuable person. You have to tell us why that's value-giving. And here's an important thing to note. At best, that's arbitrary. Throughout time, we've argued about what makes you a person. In America and across the globe, we used to say it was sex. British common law said women were not persons when it comes to rights and privileges. They said it was sex that made them not a person. Here in America, we, in the Virginia Supreme Court, said that the slave is not a person in the eyes of the law in the 1850s. Based on color or sex, they said those differences justify stripping personhood. I think that's not right. How do we know that being a man makes you a person? Well, I think we reject that today, right? But at best, it's arbitrary. They're merely asserting it. At worst, it's bigotry. If a man says you have to be a man to be a person, lucky for him, he's choosing something about himself and saying, I'm the benchmark for personhood. The same is true with Peter Singer, a self-aware man saying you have to be self-aware like me to be a person. Convenient for him. At best, that's arbitrary. At worst, it's bigotry. And that's what we're facing. We're facing a battle of bigotry, but it works for this reason. It kind of seems logical. People think that's okay. You have to be self-aware. We're all self-aware in this room. It's easy to look around and say, people like me, yeah, they matter. Here's what's hard. Looking and saying, someone who's different, they matter. The white man, James Worg, the white freedom fighter who got on that bus and was called all sorts of horrible names, he loved the man with black skin. That was rare. It's not rare or shocking or hard today to love born people. We all do that. Here's what's hard: loving someone who's different, who's not yet self-aware. That's hard. Defending them, that takes guts. And that's why you're here. So thank you.
Well, this night did not go like any of us had planned or thought, but how many of you want your $5 registration fee back? You got your money's worth still, I hope? We're so glad you came. We're going to let you, those of you who are outside of the Life Defenders community, leave in a few minutes, but we'd like you to stay for just a few more minutes. We want to introduce at this time those among us that will be providing the training and the teaching this weekend. So that would be our 101, 201, and 301 level trainers, as well as our breakout session trainers. So if you would all come up to the stage for a minute, I'm going to have each one of you introduce yourself and just give a very quick, like 1 or 2 sentence summary of what you will be teaching, okay? So again, as they're coming up, for the sake of those of you who are outside of the Life Defenders community that came tonight, we run a 101, 201, and 301 level track. This is for students, the first timers that come will go into 101, and then the second year 201, and so forth. And the great thing is seeing these students come back each year and bringing their friends, and the camp continues to grow, and we're very, very excited about that. We also run tomorrow, the 101, 201, and 301 level tracks will start tonight. Tomorrow, though, we will also, in addition, in between those tracks, we will also have some breakout session speakers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, yes, I'm sorry, Abby.
For those of you not attending the Life Defenders training this weekend, because maybe you're not in high school or college, we do host an adult workshop multiple times throughout the year. It's the 101 level taught by Mike. So if you're interested in learning the stuff that we're teaching the students this weekend, watch for, it's called the Life Defenders Adult Workshops that happen throughout the year in the northeast part of the state.
Is that scheduled for November, I think, or somewhere in there? But anyways, okay, good. Thank you, Abby, for that. Okay, I'm going to start. Well, I'll start. I'm Mike Spencer. I will be teaching the first-year students this year the 101 level track, and we'll be basically laying out the case, kind of like Seth did today, the basic 101 case for the unborn. So go ahead, Seth.
So in 201, hi, I'm Seth. We're going to jump a little beyond that. We will review all the basic cases well. Then we're going to jump into a couple of the more challenging arguments. Number one, we're going to jump on this idea of bodily autonomy, which came up briefly tonight, so we'll revisit some of that. But it's an argument that dates back to 1971, but it's still the most common argument in philosophy classrooms across the country. It's very simple, that no one has a right to use your body without your consent. Therefore, a mother may unplug the baby, knowing the baby's going to die. That's justifiable. We're going to take that on tomorrow morning. Well, tonight we'll do some review, I think. Take on tomorrow morning really strong, and also dig deeper into how do we know all humans are equal? We don't want to just assert that. What is the grounding for human equality? That's what we'll do in 201.
In 301, I teach you to unlearn everything Mike taught you. Actually, we're going to look at 2 things in particular. We're going to take you from start to finish, from the most basic street-level arguments to the most advanced academic arguments, and see how they all fit together. Then we're going to do something new this year. We're going to look at 2 current worldview trends that are going on, idling beneath the surface, that are beginning to drive debates over abortion and over things like genetic enhancements and things like that. So we're going to look at that at the worldview level, because if you've ever been in an impasse with somebody in a conversation, sometimes it's not that what you're saying it's wrong, it's that you haven't addressed the worldview they're coming from. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like.
I'm Ian Spencer. I work with Created Equal as well. And I'm doing a breakout session tomorrow on tactics, how to winsomely and effectively engage people that disagree with you on abortion. So there will be 5 main tactics that we will cover. And essentially what we're doing is just taking what you're learning